Hey guys, how's it going? We're back. I'm back in Minnesota for a quick minute, and then I actually go back to New York next week. I'll give everybody a second to jump on. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Kelly Zink, and I'm a dog trainer in Minnesota. My company is called Good Dogs Minnesota. I specialize in pet dog training and behavior modification and off-leash obedience. So pretty much my three specialties. Today, I think we're going to talk about multiple dogs in the household. And I want to preface what the things I'm about to say with the fact that, I'm a dog trainer. So people don't call me unless there's a problem. So dog trainers in general, we're a little jaded. We're a little jaded when it comes to multiple dogs in the house and dogs and kids and bringing new puppies home. We're very jaded. And the reason is because, of course, again, people call us when there's a problem. No one has ever called me or emailed me and said, you know what, I just wanted to let you know that I got a new puppy and I already have a dog and everything was great. And now they're it's 3 years later and they're both bonded and everything's wonderful. Nobody does that. Nobody calls to tell me that they brought an infant home and everything was fine, so we are coming from a little bit of a jaded perspective. So I want to make sure that I preface that. So multiple dogs in the household, right? I know a lot of people that have a lot of dogs. I know some people that have a lot of dogs that it's kind of annoying to go to their house because their dogs are just absolutely crazy. And I'm not talking like, they bark when people come over and they get a little excited. Like that's fine. My dogs do that too. Like I'm okay with that. But it can be quite obnoxious if you walk into somebody's house and you've got like 2 or 3 dogs, jumping all over you. Pretty much the rule of thumb with multiple dogs in the house that I tell all of my clients is the more dogs that you have in the household, the more structure you need to have in that household. The more dogs you have in the house, the less you should have dogs all walking around, free roaming, willy-nilly. I, for one, and I say this fully well aware that I do have 3 dogs in my house right now, but 3 dogs is a lot of dogs. There is an old saying, I don't remember where I heard it, but that 1 dog is a dog, 2 dogs is half a dog, and 3 dogs is no dog. The reason that they say that is because it takes a lot of time and energy to keep your 3 dogs enriched and trained and calm and teaching them all manners and managing all 3 of them. It's just, it takes a lot. Let me tell you. But I do have a very, very structured household. Right now, our foster isn't allowed with our other dogs, so we have them completely separated. And my 2 dogs that I have together, they're not together most of the day. They're usually separated just because I'm not around to supervise. So it's something that I really wanted to get some more information out there, get some more knowledge out there. I think that we make a lot of mistakes as dog owners, and we kind of think that our dogs, our current dogs, or your resident dog is going to be super excited about having a new friend because they love dogs. And that everything's just going to come together harmoniously, and there's going to be no problems. So it's not the case. Typically when people bring a new dog home, whether it's a puppy or an adult, so it's a rescue, I advise you guys to keep them separated. And I know that sounds crazy, but keeping them separated for a majority of the day, meaning that, and by separate, I don't mean that they have to be completely separated and not see each other. I mean that one is in the crate or one's not in the crate, or baby gates are put up in the household. We make paddocks. It's called a paddock if you're familiar with a paddock. Basically, it's, you're sectioning off areas of the house where they can see each other, they can smell each other, they can interact with the baby gate, but they're not within full contact of each other all the time. And then after a period of time, when I say that, my thing is when they stop caring about each other, like they're not super excited about each other, then we can start putting them together more often and letting it happen organically. But I want both those dogs to be pretty calm around each other, right? Most of the time we just let the new dog come in and into the household and just, whoa, hey, I'm here. And our current dog gets really excited and happy right away. But after about 6 or 7 hours, dogs get tired. Dogs get overwhelmed. And a dog that's lived as a singular dog, an only dog in the household, is very likely going to become very stressed, especially when the new dog is starting to touch all of his things and bug him while he's eating. And every time his owners go to pet, him, the other dog's coming in and cutting him off. It's gonna create some stress. So we can avoid all that by keeping the dog separated. It creates so much less stress for your current dog. It also can create a lot less stress for the dog coming in. The dog coming in is going through a huge change. It is very, very hard for them to go through that, to be rehomed, to go into a completely different environment. There's a honeymoon period, right? Which is typically anywhere from a few weeks to up to, I think, 6 months, where a dog actually, you're not really seeing that whole dog. You're only seeing who the dog is when he's adjusting to a new environment. We get a lot of that as dog trainers. I think every single client that I've had that's a rescue, the owners have said, he was great for like the first 3 months. And then all of a sudden he started to get more assimilated into the household, started to grow some confidence. And then all of a sudden we're starting to see some bad habits and some behavioral issues. So keeping your dogs separated will help you be able to weed that stuff out early, right? If your new dog comes in and has some bad habits, let's say it's leash reactive or pees in the house or a little bit food aggressive or something like that, you're going to be able to work that stuff out and have it not influence your current dog. It's another thing we get a lot. One dog was fine on the leash, the other one was reactive, and when they put them together and walked them together, guess what? Both of the dogs are now reactive. Both of the dogs are growling over their food. Both of the dogs are peeing in the house. So that is something that can be completely avoided by just keeping them separate. During separation time, right, or what I call during the assimilation period, the dogs can have social sessions. So they can get together and play for an hour or two, right? They can go for walks together. If you probably have one person walking each dog, so 2 people, unless the dogs are both really good at heel, and you can do that with both, but they should be in a very follower kind of state of mind if they're both going to go for a walk together. And you can switch rooms. So if you have, let's say, your kitchen cut off from your living room and you've got one dog in each, they should switch on a regular basis so nobody gets super accustomed to one area of the house or becomes territorial over one area of the house. And slowly you start making social sessions go a little bit longer after the assimilation period, which I like a good 3 months of that. 2 months if you're really, really dog savvy. And then you can start letting them go together more often and for longer periods of time until they're together. Another thing that is really important, especially if you're bringing new puppies home, is that you want your new dog or your new puppy to bond with you more than they're bonded to the other dog. So it's really, really helpful if you're keeping them separated and you take the time to bond with your new dog. Take the time to get him acclimated to the environment. Get him, if he's going to have different rules than your current dog, right? Because a lot of times when you bring the second one in, you don't want them having maybe the same rules as the dog you already have. So getting him accustomed to the rules and really taking the time to get to know him or her. And seeing what his quirks are, seeing if there's issues that you want to work out before actually assimilating him into the family as a whole. That stuff's really important, and it helps it prevents so many issues. So many issues. Again, I know that a lot of people put their dogs together and it's no problem. We're dog trainers, we're jaded. So we're very much proactive, right? We want to be, we live with a proactive mindset when it comes to dogs in the house. So, and I do realize that dogs are different, you know, and each dog has their own personalities. And there are some dogs out there that actually they do better around another dog. If you've got a particularly fearful dog or hi Andy, or a feral, you know, not feral, but like a puppy mill dog, they're going to do better around other dogs. So there are situations where another dog could be helpful. You just want to make sure that your other dog actually is being helpful and maybe not becoming, the new dog maybe is becoming really codependent on your current dog, is bonding close to your current dog and not bonding with you. It's also good to keep them separated because you can make sure that the current dog you have is still is maintaining, you're maintaining that relationship, right? You're still working on all the basic manners and or maintenance stuff, you know, training with your current dog. Still very, very important. I have 3 dogs in my house right now, and each one of them get individual time with me. That's another thing that's important. Even if they're together, if you're at a point where you've passed the assimilation period and the dogs are together, I have definitely take the time at least every day to spend time with each dog individually. All of Marley, he's down there under my desk. He's not really trained to do much, but just kind of be with me. But Hogarth is field trained, and we do shed hunting, and we're starting to do some bird tracking. And the Malinois, if she stays here, which I'm still undecided, but if she stays here, she'll be doing more precision obedience with her. Probably do some tracking also. And we'll see what she wants to do. I'd like to see if she gets into the search and rescue, but each dog has their own job basically in the world, and in our world, right, in our house. Each dog has their own job. The Malinois also, if she does stay, she'll be coming to work with me a lot with other dogs because she's a very dog savvy dog, which means she just ignores other dogs and lets me work dogs. Where's on my notes here? Yes. I think one of the biggest problems that we can have, or one of the biggest issues that multiple dog households have, is pretty much just kind of chaos and disorder. It's really important that if you have 2 dogs, and like I said earlier, the more dogs you have in the house, the more trained they should be, the more structure that should be in your home. If you have multiple dogs in the house, it's really important that you can verbally stop them from playing with one another, right? You can verbally stop one from approaching or getting involved with whatever the other one's doing, if you choose to. If the other dog's eating, the other dog says, "Hey, I'm done eating. I'm going to come over and I'm going to see what you're doing and see if I can get some of your food." You know, you have to be able to just verbally stop that behavior. So it's really important that you take the time to build up those relationships with each dog, right? Yeah. I did have a question that came up. If there's anybody who has any questions about multiple dogs in the house, about anything that I'm talking about, feel free to ask. Excuse me. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about was feeding multiple dogs in the household. I think it's really important that you feed dogs separately. Absolutely 100% just feed them separately. I know that there's videos. There's a video that went around about those pit bulls eating, the pile of food on the floor, which is fine. It's cooperative feeding. But if you are the average dog owner, I just don't recommend it. I think that there's really cool, what we call feeding, cooperative feeding exercises that you can do with your dogs to facilitate them being cooperative around food. But typically speaking, just keep them separated. I prefer all dogs eating in their crates. Just keep them separate. You don't have to worry. It becomes a non-issue. Typically, when all dogs are fed in their crates for a long period of time, you don't have resource guarding issues that happen in other areas either. So that's really, really important. And it's really important to have some sort of structure around food. Dogs should be waiting for their food patiently. In our house, all dogs are on a downstay while we're making food. And then we feed each one, kind of feed them in order, typically the same order, so everybody knows when the food is coming. And everybody, when they're done, everybody has their routine when they're done with their meal too. So it is very controlled. And for the first month that Dasha was here, I stood in between her and Hogarth when they both eat in the kitchen, but I'm always in there. And I stood between them just to make sure that everybody was staying on their end of the kitchen. Now I stand there. I don't have to stand between because now Dasha just is ready to go outside when she's done eating and doesn't care. Andy says, what about male and females? Male, female, in any combination better? Sure. Preferably, I would want a boy and a girl. That's number one. That's usually the easiest. You don't get some of the kind of status issues I think you can have with the same sex. Now, all that being said, though, there's exceptions to every rule. So I'm going to preface by saying, this is a general statement. But typically, you'd want a boy and a girl if you're going to have 2 dogs. If you're going to have 3 dogs, well, I don't know. I don't know about 3 dogs because I can see it going bad either way, to be quite honest. But typically, if you're gonna have 2, I would say boy and a girl number 1, 2 boys number 2, and 2 females number 3. I know that's surprising. A lot of people think that two males in the house is worse. Not usually. 2 females in the house tend to be much, much more. We see much more what we call pack-mate aggression with 2 females, or house-mate aggression. Females tend to be much more quick to fight. Where boys, you might have more conflict with boys, or the same amount of conflict, but boys tend to be more postury. You might get more growling, more humping, more, that kind of a behavior, which is not okay. None of that's okay. But there's a little more warning, I think, with with boys. Girls can be pretty hard to deal with. Especially if you want to make sure that if you have multiple dogs in the household, if you should spay and neuter at least one of them, or unless you're really, really ready to add some structure. I like my dogs intact, to be honest. The 2 rescues are spayed and neutered. But my personal dogs that I buy as puppies, I keep them intact. And that's just for my personal choice and health reasons. And by intact, I mean they keep their gonads. But I do sterilize after a certain period of time. Hogarth's actually going to get sterilized soon, but he's going to keep his balls. But if you're going to do that and you're going to keep the dogs hormonal with all those reproductive hormones, you want to make sure that your house has structure and that your dogs know absolutely that you're number one in the household. That's something that I think gets skewed when we talk about the relationship with dogs. It's really important that if I have 2 dogs, the most important relationship to this dog is this relationship. And the most important relationship to this dog is this relationship, not this relationship, if that makes sense. When we make this relationship the most important, you pretty much have no control at that point. You're pretty much living under management. That means that you're not going to be able to control your dogs. You're not going to be able to call them off of each other. You're not going to, if they get into playing that's so rough, it's causing problems. They fight, anything. It's not going to be, it's terrible. I've seen it so often where you can see that the 2 dogs in the house or the 3 dogs, their relationships with each other are just much more important. And they really don't care about the person. It's like the person's a roommate. The owner's a roommate that just feeds them and takes them outside. You don't want to get into that place, for sure. But yeah, I would say, I would say definitely a boy and a girl, number 1. Ooh, the other thing that I want to touch on really briefly, though, is litter mates, which is getting puppies out of the same litter or getting puppies too soon close together. So I say it's best to put at least 3 years between dogs, 3 to 6 years. You can, 2 years is okay too, but you want to make sure if you're bringing a puppy in that your current dog is old enough to be mature enough to handle it and not regress into puppyhood, right? So if you have an adolescent dog and then you go get a puppy, you're just going to have 2 puppies again. And again, that bonding to each other is much more likely to happen. But you also don't want a dog too old. You don't want to, if you have a 13-year-old dog that is like ready just to chill out and sleep by the fire for his days, don't bring a puppy home. Just wait. Don't bring that puppy home because it's just going to stress your dog out, your old dog out. Old dogs don't want to be around puppies. It's not going to make them happy. It's not going to make them feel young again. It's only going to make them feel older and sicker. But litter mates, getting 2 puppies out of the same litter, highly, highly, highly not recommended. So many things can go wrong. A lot of times we do have fights. Litter mates tend to fight quite a bit in adolescence, and usually at around a year and a half they'll start fighting. Excuse me, I'm taking water. And it's terrible. It's just terrible. And typically, too, again, they'll bond to each other. They're already bonded to each other to a certain extent when you bring them home, and they're just going to maintain that really close bond together. If you do get litter mates, I suggest keeping them really, really separated, completely separated for 2 or 3 years, and making sure you're training each one of them individually, not together at all. They also can develop what's called sibling syndrome, which means that they can't function. They get anxiety. They have overwhelming anxiety when they're separated, which means that might seem cute and awesome, but that means that if you have to take one to the vet, guess what? You have the other one to go with, right? If one of them dies, then you have a huge problem. If one of them ends up in the ER and has to be at the vet for a long period of time for some reason, you've got an anxious, crazy dog at home that doesn't care about you because the one thing, his most relevant relationship is not there. So highly not suggested. It's like double trouble for sure. You're only going to hate yourself later. Yeah. And training, going through the puppy stage and training those dogs, training 2 dogs, getting 2 dogs is not training times 2, it's training times 3, because you have to train them each individually. And then you also have to train them how to be around each other, how to be together. Just because I have one dog in the room and I know sit down, stay, or take one dog on a walk and he heels doesn't mean he's going to do that when the other dog is there, right? So it's really, really tough. My neighbors have litter mates, and I can tell you that they've struggled quite a bit in those early years. And I can't imagine, they have 9 acres over there. I can't imagine what it would have been like if those dogs weren't running those acres, running the fields for hours and hours and hours every day. I think they got away with it now just because those dogs get so much exercise. So, I did have a question. I wrote it down somewhere. Let me look here. Hold on. Wrote it down. Sorry, I have a little cold. Where was it? Oh, here it is. Oh, this is not about litter or about multiple dogs in the household, but the question was, when do you know it's time to put a dog down? Put a dog to sleep. It's a tough one. I would, I'm a quality versus quantity kind of person. So my thing is if the day-to-day life of the dog, meaning that the things that the dog enjoys doing are too hard to do anymore, that would be my thing. That would be a big indicator to me that it's getting really close. If a dog can't get up on their own, I think that's a big one too. I've known people that have kept their dogs very much alive until they, when they couldn't get up at all. I don't think that's really fair. So that's my biggest thing. If the dog is old, if the dog is like sick, I think that, it's a quality versus quantity. I know personally for me, I would not put my dog through a extreme medical treatment if I wasn't 100% sure that on the other end of it, the dog would still have a fulfilling life. And for my dogs, that means running in the field, being able to run and jump and swim and, I don't necessarily agree with putting dogs through heavy treatments and really, really big surgeries only to have them live like another year or 2 years or maybe live another 5 years but never be able to run or live fulfilled. That's my thing. I think that's really important. So that's just me though. I think that everybody just knows. I think you just know after a while. If you've had your dog your whole life, I think you just know. All right. Does anybody have any questions about multiple dogs in the household? Hi, Heather. I see you came on. Next week, I won't be on. I will actually be in New York, back in New York. I just got done with a seminar. I got home 3 days ago, and we did a Mastering the Remote Collar seminar, which was absolutely amazing. And if anybody has any questions about remote collars, I can now answer every question you have about remote collars. And I'm actually going to go back there and do a shadow program. So I will be at the facility called Canine Connections doing a shadow program on remote collar work, dog reactivity, dog aggression, and rehabilitation. And it should be fun. Yes, with Tyler. Emily says, with Tyler Muto. Yes, with Tyler Muto, who it's the first time I've met him and actually saw him in person. I've watched a lot of his stuff and obviously watched all of his, his lectures. But I was very, very impressed. And for somebody like me, like you can't just tell me, oh, do this. You have to tell me why. And he explains why with everything, which is really, really awesome. And I'm really excited to go back and learn more from him. He's probably my number one dog mentor right now, I have to say. And also he's just kicked ass at being the president of the IACP and done some really good work there. So yeah, I'm very excited. And if you have a chance to go, Emily, you should go. And his shadow programs are surprisingly affordable. So, oh, itching. So yeah, multiple dogs. I don't honestly, if you're not somebody that is home all the time, I don't really. Sometimes I think people get too many dogs. I know that working in the rescue, there's a lot of fosters that had there was one that had 12 dogs in her house. And that was insane. You're just asking for trouble when that comes. And I know that people get this idea of a pack, they want to have a pack of dogs. The reality is that, number one, whether dogs are pack animals to begin with is up for debate. Depends on where you stand on the issue. I personally think that they are. However, I think that the definition currently of a pack animal is not even agreed upon in ethology today. The current definition of a pack, if you actually look at it, doesn't even, it would discount a lot of canine species that obviously are packs. So, the criteria of being a pack animal. So, as far as owning dogs, if you live with a dog and you live in a human world with your dog, which we all do because they're pets, it's really, really important. And we all have a responsibility to make sure that we are the leaders of our dogs. And I use the word leadership lightly because I do think it's a buzzword, and I do think it doesn't have a clear definition. But we need to make sure that we are guiding our dogs through their lives because it's our responsibility, right? It's my responsibility that I can call my dogs away from stuff that they're not supposed to be around. It's my responsibility that my dogs in the home follow the rules of our home, because those are rules set in place to keep them safe, keep my kids safe, keep our chickens safe. I mean, we have baby chickens right now. I mean, in the house. These are rules that are set in place, and they need to follow those rules. Do I have to be yell and scream and be a jerk and a bully for them to follow these rules? Absolutely not. In fact, most of the discipline that happens in our home is just disappointment. My dogs are like, "Oh God, no, don't be disappointed in me." It comes very natural to them. I mean, we've established very clearly what the rules are, very clear boundaries, what they are. But I think everybody they want to pack, and the reality is that for dogs, if you look at the Cesar Millan, which I'm not against Cesar Millan, I think he's a great dog handler. But if you look at his facility and you see those 30 dogs, or when he was actually in downtown Los Angeles, when he had 30 dogs in a yard, that's not a natural environment for dogs, right? Being involved with a bunch of, being in a high volume number of dogs is not natural for dogs. And in order for those dogs to be harmonious in that big environment, or that environment with that many dogs, there has to be somebody who's the leader, right? The human has to be the leader and has to be very, very strict in order to keep the peace. Whether or not we should carry that on into our homes, as far as how strict you would have to be to manage that many dogs, and is a question. I just think it's my personal responsibility that my dogs are well behaved. For the people around, for my neighbors, I don't want my dogs getting hit by cars or scaring people or biting kids or chasing the neighbor's cat or chasing my own. I don't have a cat, but my own chickens, my own birds. I don't want them getting too rough, housey in the house and destroying my stuff. Emily, you have an angry face. Are you mad about something? Do tell. We're all friends here, I think. But I think everybody has this idea that they want to pack. And the reality is it's really, really hard to have a quote-unquote pack. And whether or not that quote-unquote pack exists, I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. I mean, there's actually never been a scientific study done on feral dogs. There's only been 12 dogs. Oh, I know. Actually, it was pretty horrific. Actually, I think that they did have a pretty bloody fight. Oh, that's my scared face. Gotcha. Yeah, it was, and I think they were all smaller dogs, but I think that they weren't all crated. They just were running around the house. So that's just insane. But oh yeah, there's never been a study done on village dog, what you'd call a village dog, right? So in other parts of the world, there's stray dogs, right? So there's groups of stray dogs that have lived generations and generations, stray dogs. And in Puerto Rico, they have wild domestic dogs where they're not pets, they're wild, and nobody's trying to make them pets, and nobody's coming in to save them. There's never ever been a study. There's only been, India is another place they have those. There's only been observations and then people making assumptions based on those observations. So we really don't know if apocalypse now happened tomorrow and the human race got wiped off the face of the earth and dogs scavenged and then eventually we're completely separated from humans in a very real way. Who knows? Would they pack up and create large family groups? I don't know. Would they create really strict linear hierarchies with the alpha, beta, and blah, blah, down the line? Alpha, omega, beta? I don't know. We don't know that. So it's a good thing to keep in mind when somebody's arguing about whether or not dogs are pack animals. The reality is that we don't know. Every study done on dogs or every observational study done on wild domestic dogs, the dogs are still living in close enough proximity to people that we are providing a major source of their resources. So the only way to tell would be completely take away the resources and let them go out into nature and do their own thing, which we can't. So we shouldn't. So we really don't know. And I think there is an appeal to have like a lot of dogs. There's a pack of dogs, my pack, and I think that that's unfortunate because most people that want that or that think that that's awesome really don't have a pack. They have a bunch of dogs that are just unruly, in my experience anyway. Yeah. We did talk about puppies a couple weeks back. And again, I want to make sure that I want to reiterate how important it is to, if you bring a puppy home, please keep them separated. Just keep them separated from the other dogs. And again, by separation, I don't mean that they have to be completely like out of sight, but separated by baby gates for a while. Do play sessions so that the dogs can get used to the puppy. Especially as the puppy gets older, I think when they're little and they're 8 weeks old, it's not the big a deal, but especially when you get to like 12 weeks and up, there's a lot that goes on between dogs that we have no idea about. And it's really important that we provide our dogs with the space that they need, right? Puppies, not only do they need space, I mean, not only your older dog needs space, but your puppy needs to be at rest for at least, 16 hours in a 24-hour period, your puppy should be sleeping or be at rest. That means that you've got your 8 hours at night, and then 8 hours in that day, your puppy should be in the crate. Not 8 hours at a time, of course, but they should be in the crate. They should be taking many, many naps and growing and getting plenty of sleep. And that would cut out, first of all, it'll cut out like half of your puppy problems. And it'll really give your current dog time to adjust. again, and I've talked about this before, if you follow, if you've watched Facebook Lives, we have to remember that bringing a puppy or another dog, that our dogs are drafted into our lives. We don't ask them their opinions. We just assume. And I can't tell you how many dogs I think every single one of my clients who have had pack-mate aggression, their first dog really enjoyed other dogs, and went to the dog park and was a great dog. And the assumption was, I'm going to get him a dog to play with. And then bringing the dog into the house thinking that it was going to be great. And it's not, So just keep that in mind. Like, we draft them into our lives and we don't ask their permission to bring home a new brother or sister. And so because of that, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. If you want another dog, get another dog. But you have to make sure that you're doing it responsibly and that you're taking everybody into consideration, not just what you want and not just what you think your dog is going to be happy with. I don't mean to get hard on owners, but it's a tough thing. And I have clients, any one of my clients that has dogs fighting, pack-mate aggression, referred to as pack-mate aggression or house-mate aggression, can tell you. It's no fun. And it's probably the most expensive thing to deal with. Hi, Gabby. How's Winnie? It's probably the most expensive thing to deal with because a lot of trainers won't do it in the house. They're not going to do private lessons. And you also, typically, you don't get discounts for 2 dogs and a board and train. So you're paying double. It also is very, very, it's just hard. It's just really hard. And it doesn't have a very good success rate either. So you could spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a dog trainer and have improvement, but the problem may never be solved. So that's a very real thing. Yeah. All right. What time is it? Okay. Abby says Winnie's one of my clients. At the studio with Will, got the cat out. Cool. We're going to work on the cat. I have a plan for the cat, which I guess is another thing to talk about is dogs and cats. That'll have to be a whole nother thing. Unfortunately, that's such a harder one for me than dogs. I can't control the cat. But good. I'm glad she's getting around, getting her smell on. Can I ask an off-topic question about what you offer for training? Emily asks, what do I offer for training? I do private lessons and I do board and trains. So I either have a dog here training with me in my day, or I do private lessons. And I have either you do single sessions, 5 sessions, or 8 sessions. And I do anything behavior mod that is in my ability to do. Human aggression, what type of dog? How big is the dog? Human aggression I can do. Typically speaking, with the human aggression, I won't take human aggression here. Oh, cool. I won't take human aggression here in my home because I have a kid and it's only me here. So typically it's not really a good idea to take in 3-legged pit bull. Ooh. I can definitely talk to and do some coaching. Typically, if a dog's really human aggressive, I don't touch the dog, but I will coach on how to deal with the dog and see how that goes. Here's a big question. Guarding the human from other people. Okay, so Number one, okay, so the things that I would ask for that, I'd say, where's the dog sleeping at night? Number one. Number two, if the dog is guarding a person, it means that the person he views the person as something to be guarded, right? That's not a very good relationship, number one. Number two, I would ask what type of training does the dog have already? Because we should look at that. That's important. And what's giving the dog the message that it can guard the person, right? I guess that's a big thing. When we talk about, let's say, territory, a dog is only as territorial as his owner gives him license to have, right? So I can tell you one thing for me. So that means that, sorry, I'm getting a little jumbled. That means that there's a reason that the dog thinks that she can guard, right? So she's getting the message that it's okay, right? Or she's getting the message that she has to. Typically with aggression, the dogs either think they have to or they think they can. So we have to figure out, how do we make them feel like they don't have to, and what do we need to do to make them know that they're not supposed to, like they can't. It's not an option. I'm gonna Pitbull. His adopter. It's for a rescue dog. Okay. Guarding the adopter. Yeah, I mean, those are the questions that I would ask for sure. Yeah. Have him reach out, go to my website, and just go to the contact page and just write me a message. I will tell you right now that I'm getting really, really booked up for June and July. So do it quick. And I can talk to them about that. So how old is the dog? That would be another question. Is how old's the dog? How long has it been in the home? And has it ever bitten, like really bitten somebody? Like teeth? Like put teeth in somebody? Yeah, no problem. Those would be questions I would want to know. If they do message me, tell them those questions. So how old's the dog? How old's the dog? How long has it been in the house? And has it put teeth in anybody? At that point, I'll send them a form to fill out, and then they can fill out all like the details of things like that. Okay. The fact that it hasn't bitten is good. But what I'm assuming is it's lunging, growling, barking. I assume that's what's going on. So yeah, there's a lot of questions there. And with human aggression, with any training, honestly, there's no guarantee. I'll do what I can, and if it's a really, really severe case, I can definitely refer them out to somebody. The only thing about the tough part about dogs that are like the real deal human aggression, there's nobody really here in the state that I would refer out to. It'd have to be probably out to Tyler, or there's a guy named Jeremy Majors in Wisconsin that I know works some pretty heavy dogs too. Yeah, I believe it started after he got a girlfriend, and now he wants to guard the girlfriend from his owner. Ooh. All right. So yeah, that sounds like a relationship issue, right? Usually a dog that's guarding something or is reactive in some way, it's usually a relationship issue. So we look at the relationship and see what we can do there, first of all. And sometimes change can make it happen, if the girlfriend just kind of came around. But that's interesting that he's guarding from his owner. I don't know. Sounds exciting. guarding from people, like guarding dogs that guard people, we hear that a lot, and it's actually misdiagnosed a lot. I mean, I'm sure Gabby can tell you, like with Winnie, her behavior, we see her behavior quite frequently, but a lot of people say, well, he's really protective of me, right? So if somebody saw Gabby and Winnie in the street and Winnie was having a little bit of a meltdown because she saw a dog, people be like, oh, he's protecting me. And in reality, it's not. It's not protection at all. It's self-preservation, which is fun to tell owners that their dog really is trying to like leave you in the dust. But it usually it's self-preservation. Maybe it's both preservation, but typically it's self-preservation because the dog feels really insecure about the situation. And yeah, and so it gets misdiagnosed a lot. I think the other thing too is it's really, really important if you've got a dog, and I think this goes for anything, any behavior at all, your dog should not be allowed to or think that they can interrupt your connection or your engagement with something else, whether it's another dog or a person or the guard, whatever. So if I'm petting one of my dogs, my other dogs are not allowed to come up and get involved in that situation at all. I'm petting one dog and I'm engaging with one dog, right? And what often will happen is they'll come up and they'll give me like this 4-foot radius and they'll sit and wait their turn, which is fine, but they're not allowed to like interrupt a behavior that I have with another dog at all. Or my child, or if I'm hugging my wife, they're not allowed to come up and get involved in that. That's a pretty, for a dog to do that, it shows a lot of, I almost said confidence. It's not confidence. It shows a lot of control, the fact that they can go and be like, I need to control that situation. That's not okay. That's a huge, for lack of a better word, a huge leadership issue. I think it was a bit spoiled when it was just the two of them. Yeah, that happens. That happens. I think, yeah, dogs are. I will tell you that there's a blog going on. If you look it up, it's called I think it's The Silent Killer, and it's about. Blake wrote it, maybe not, but it's very I think that's what it's called, The Silent Killer. It's about how spoiled dogs actually end up dead for reasons just like that. Like the spoiled dog decides, oh, I can guard things, and then guards a person from another person and ends up biting and then gets put down. Killing with love or killing with kindness, and it's a sad thing, and I'm laughing about it, but it's kind of a sad thing. We have to make sure that we're not humanizing our dogs in the wrong way. I think there's a right way to humanize dogs, and for example, oh hi Jess. Jess says hi. For example, I pride myself that my dogs are generally they're polite in public. They're polite dogs, right? My child is also very polite. I don't put up with like sass from my kid. And she doesn't go to Target and throw big fits. And she's very kind and she knows how to be quiet when it's time to be quiet. And she knows, if I can say, hey, this isn't allowed right now, she'll go, oh, okay. And she's a very good kid. And my dogs are very good dogs, right? So I guess it's like, I'm okay with calling my dogs my kids because my kid's really well behaved, right? I say that now, and tomorrow she's going to do something crazy and I'm going to eat my words, but, or the dogs are going to do something crazy and I'm going to eat my words. But to a certain extent, like, would you allow your kid would we allow our kids, and kids meaning like, let's put it in perspective, not babies, not fur babies, right? Kids between the ages of 7 and 13 because that's pretty much the same type of rules that our dogs, that we're putting in with our dogs, right? Other than the fact that we have to feed them. But would we let our kids do that? Some of the stuff that we let our dogs do? I don't think so. It shocks me. So I think people should start acting more like parents with their dogs. More like parents of kids. If that makes sense. Not like parents of infants, right? And treat them as little, they can do no wrong little babies or cute little 4-year-olds, but like kids that can be destructive if not given the right path, kids that can lie to you and be shitty if they're not given the right guidance, right? But kids that can also do amazing, awesome things and be amazing, awesome people, and if they're given the right resources and enough enrichment and enough guidance and enough love, right? So it's okay to humanize your dogs a little bit. Just humanize them the right way. Yeah, Winnie would definitely leave you behind, Gabby. I want to say she wouldn't, but I think she would. She'd come back for you, though. I think she'd come back for you after the scary, miniature schnauzer ran away. All right. That was a little bit of a rant on humanizing dogs. Does anybody have any? Eventually she'd get lost because she'd get scared about being alone, and then she'd finally come back. Does anybody have any other questions about? We did multiple dogs today, but you can ask a question about anything. I don't care. I'm always up for questions. It doesn't have to be on the topic. It can always be whatever. And I don't have a topic every time. I just usually like to start talking about something. Yep, she would. Just to get it going. So I want to get me in the groove of actually speaking to my own face. Whenever I do Facebook Lives, every time I turn it on and I start talking, I think, oh my God, I look just like my mother. And it freaks me out a little bit. Hey, Gabby, are you still on? Do you want to see something really cute? I'll be right back. Do you train the chickens like dogs? No, but look at my new chicken. Isn't he cute? She, I think. Hi. Can you guys see it? She's so cute. Look. She's a little buff silky. Can I train the chickens? I don't know. Oh, she just pooped. Oh. Silly. All right, I'm going to take her back. She's going to start screaming. Oh, sorry. Those are my new silkies. They're super cute. And they're at the awesome age now where they're not too delicate and you can pick them up and stuff. Yeah, they're totally cute. I have 2 buffs, which one of them might be a partridge, and then I have a black one, and I think the black one's a rooster. So I'm kind of excited because I didn't want a rooster this year. I cannot train the chickens, but I'm going to get a Seabright chicken. I don't know when. And I'm going to keep them in the house. I'm going to get 2 of them. And I'm going to train it. I'm going to clicker train it to do a bunch of stuff. They're little, I don't know if you look up Seabrights, but they're smaller chickens, or I think they're a bantam. And they're more, I don't want to say they're more intelligent because I think chickens are actually pretty intelligent, but they're more, they're more easy to handle. Like those out there, they would, I don't think I could train them. Although, I don't know, because if I go up on the porch and I call them, they'll come running because they know I'm probably throwing food down. Like today they got a bunch of blueberries and stuff, so yeah. But yeah, those are my chickens. I can't train them like the dog, but you can marker train chickens. Yeah, you just can't really like correct them or discipline them, and they don't care. It doesn't really work because in order to correct or discipline an animal, they have to care about the relationship. And then I'm just checking if there's any questions. I'm gonna have to watch the replay because I missed out most of tonight's talk. Because we were putting our chickens in a new coop. Oh yeah, I took the ones in the no coop. Have you had chicken drama yet? Are they fighting yet? If they fight, don't stress. They'll fight a little. It's okay. Make tiny eggs. Yeah, I think. The silkies have tiny eggs. Did you get any of the silky eggs when you got eggs? By the way, I'm just throwing this out there. Anybody that comes to my house leaves with eggs. It's not a choice. Not a choice. I have right now probably like 12 dozen eggs in the fridge. Nobody leaves this house without eggs. Yeah, so they will have little, you want some more eggs, Gabby? You get eggs. I will bring them next time I see you, which will be the 17th. I will bring them. And we're going to give them away for free for a little bit because there's just too many. They're going to start going bad soon, so. All right. Well, it's about that time. I should be getting going. I have a very early client in the morning. So next week, we probably will not have a show. I'll try. It's a little bit harder because they're an hour ahead, so it's up pretty late. Send some to Wisconsin. Andy, don't your parents have like a billion chicken eggs? I think that they would get mad at me. Yeah, next week, I don't know if we're going to do it. I will probably be really tired. Last time I was in New York with the seminar, I was like bushed after 8 hours of working dogs. So I get really tired. It's kind of like the last thing I want to talk about after a long day. But we'll see what happens. And see if I can do it. Maybe we'll try it. Maybe if there's another person there that wants to do it, we'll do a double one. We'll see. But yeah, so tomorrow's show, it'll just be sporadic. I probably won't post about it if it's going to happen or not. And we will be back on the 14th. Yeah, the 14th. We'll just continue on every Monday night after that. So, all right. They're separated but share a wall. Yeah. We had them in a dog kennel inside the coop for a long time. And then they all fight for a while, and then you get freaked out, and yeah, whatever. All right, guys. So again, my name is Kelly, and my company is called Good Dogs Minnesota, and I am in obviously Minnesota. We serve the Twin Cities and the West Metro, and specialize in pet dog training, which basic obedience, off-leash obedience, and behavior modification. If anybody's watching the replay and you have a question, you can go ahead that you would like me to address next time, you can go ahead and type it in here and I will see it, or you can PM me, or just catch the next one live and ask me then. All right, you guys have a good night, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.